Welcome to VaynerBox. I'm Bambi Francisco, and with me, as usual, is Ezra Roizen. He is a digital media investment banker and our VaynerBox regular, and I'm excited to tell you that today we have Marissa Meyer as our guest host. Marissa is VP of Search Products and User Experience at Google. And Marissa, thank you for being our guest host for this segment of VaynerBox.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Well, we're going to jump right in today. We're going to look at Woome, which is a speed dating site, now online introductory platform. It was launched in December 2006, raised $17 million. And let's listen to Steven Stokols in his pitch.
Hello, I'm Steven Stokols, CEO of Woome, the world's largest and first live introductions platform. So Woome basically extends the speed dating model, broadens it and webifies it in a way that people can come and meet around any various topic, all user-generated topics, whether it be looking for travel partners or looking for friends, in these fast 1-minute voice and video, all web-based interactions. So Woome has been out there for a little less than a year, and in that time we've already registered over 1 million people. We're doing over 2 million uniques a month. We're international already, and the growth has been quite explosive. And to put those numbers in perspective, and the growth in perspective, just in July we were doing about 500,000 visits a month. That's quadrupled in the last 4 months. So again, the growth has been explosive. It's really started to take on, and we're seeing users use it for everything from, like I said, looking for travel partners, or if they're going to San Diego for the weekend, they try to meet some people in San Diego and they use the platform for that, to things like just meeting friends across the country or across the globe.
So I thought he did a really good job with his pitch.
I've met Steven a few times. Really smart guy, great background. He's great entrepreneur. I think they're going up. That trajectory based on that compete graph is going up nicely, but I don't know how long at that rate it goes up before they have to return a venture return on $19 million. So I think they have to have things going up quite fast. I think that's going to be the trick for them, is how do you get the curve going at a steeper angle to get over what's a pretty significant hurdle with the amount of money they've raised.
Right, right.
Well, I definitely think with social elements online, you want to see exponential growth. In fact, we've joked at time from time from Google that dating is just really another search problem. So a lot of the same principles, even though we've stayed away from that area, a lot of the same principles apply. You need comprehensiveness, which means you need a lot of different people involved in the finding exercise.
Right.
So the more users you have, the better this site is going to get.
Right.
Right. So you need to have a lot of users, and also relevance is important. So I like their idea of having these user-generated forums because you can find people who are relevant, have the same interests as you. I think the challenge is that one of the other elements of relevance in online dating is whether or not someone is authentic.
Right,
how can you trust that they really are who they say they are? And I think that the video piece helps with that a lot.
But how relevant do you have to be? I mean, in many ways, you really don't want a perfect system because you want these people to keep coming back and, find another person, right? You don't want it perfect so they can find their perfect match, or you wouldn't really have a...
Well, but think about if you applied that analogy to search.
Yeah.
You say, well, let's not give them the right result the first time because that will keep them coming back. And that's just not a good strategy in search problems.
Right.
It's really if you make the users happy, they tell other users how happy they are, and it makes them come back. And so I do think, the big challenges for them are the growth, getting more people involved, and making sure that some of the other pitfalls of online dating sites in terms of how authentic people are, really don't rear up here.
I would add a couple of things. He's beginning to get into areas that are not specifically dating. So he began to talk about, going to San Diego and hanging out with people. I think the trick becomes there's really only one activity that is the precursor to which is going and finding people first. Most other activities, you find people after you're doing the activity. So you go snowboarding and you meet a cool person snowboarding, and then you now have a shared experience, and you go and do something with them again. You don't say, I'm going to go online and find someone to go snowboarding with. The only dating is the only activity where you go and say, I need to find another human to accomplish the objective I'm setting out to accomplish.
But if you're taking a trip or trekking trip to Nepal, say, and you want to find people who are going on the trip around the same time you are, you might want to find someone, especially if you're going alone.
Pretty narrow category of events that are going to require you to go find the person on a trekking trip to Nepal. I don't think you're going to get over the $19 million hurdle with that.
And then you also have the differentiation aspect, because then you have to say, okay, well, what makes this better than say something like Facebook or MySpace, or where you could find other people you might know already, friends of friends, right? And there, because there's a lot more people involved, I think you're going to have an easier time finding people who have common interests.
What do you think about the idea that they have, so they have another part of their business where they actually, it's sort of a voyeuristic part of their business where they're taking these videos and actually publicizing them and making them public. You can opt in, you have to opt in to make your video public, but it becomes a little bit of a new reality TV genre.
I think it's slightly creepy. I think that they're me watching other people hitting on other people in micro slices. is sort of.
Well, you mentioned something. There's no character.
There's no character development.
It's quite boring. You can watch one or two of them.
Yeah, a couple guys lusting after Kilo Tequila, which is what's happening on their main page, is interesting. But then it degrades quickly as the experience. You realize you're not seeing anybody naked, and then the second problem becomes it's just not. It's not that interesting. So I would also say what I would do though is I would go to like Zynga or another place where people are aggregating, where they're sharing experiences. So that's a game site where you don't know who they are, but you may want to meet them. So if you're hanging out in Zynga playing poker and someone cool that seems to be geographically local to you, and you say, hey, do you want to jump over and do like a video chat thing or get to know each other a little bit better or whatever it may be, now you have an opportunity to take a shared experience, reverse engineer into a video thing, and then actually maybe have a date, which could work.
And what I think is really good here, as they're branching out beyond just dating, doing the common interests, doing some of the voyeuristic pieces, I'd be surprised if some of those elements work out because of the lack of differentiation or because of the creepy factor. But what's good about it is it means that as entrepreneurs, they're really experimenting.
Now, what
they're
about
trying
the
new things, and that's definitely what you want to see.
The advertising element is really interesting, where they put an ad in front of an introduction and at the end. And you actually, because this is all live, introductions, right, and you have to wait 15 seconds, so they actually force you to watch an ad, which I think is kind of an interesting way, an interesting model. You really have to be forced to watch an ad. So in many ways, it's really targeted.
Yeah. And if you're eager to see the person and they had a cute headshot, you'll hang out and watch the ad. But I think, I don't know, again, whatever they do, it's a derivative of the volume that they can get participating in the site. So if they can't get something that has a massive volume, and as you said, enough market forming effects to make enough opportunity for the right match, you got to set volume. So you got to figure out how to create volume.
Okay, well let's go into the liquid scenarios minute. And what that time is, that's the time we look at valuations and exit strategies, and most importantly, when founders do or don't make money, and this is the analysis provided by Liquid Scenarios, our sponsor. So Woome raised a total of $17.4 million to date. The company's last round of financing was $12.5 million in Series B round with a post-money valuation of $41 million. This suggests that Woome's pre-money valuation was around $28.5, and that Series B investors just got over 31% of the company for their investment. If Woome were to exit at $50 million, same price Match.com sold to Ticketmaster for Series B investors, Series B investors would realize a 1.5x return on their investment if the company sold 1 year from now. If the company were to sell at eHarmony's Series B pre-money valuation of $350 million, Series B investors would get nearly a 10x cash-on-cash return. An exit somewhere in between is entirely possible because Woome's unique use of VoIP and the way it's covering user content into entertainment, something Match.com would find difficult to do and something that could be contrary to eHarmony's business model. The combination of video content, which is growing faster than online dating, is a key differentiator since online video consumption is highest in the demographics first to adopt social media. Woome could likely carve out a sizable and profitable niche very quickly. That's the Liquid Scenarios Minute. Thoughts on that?
Well, I think it goes back to the number of users. Because the number of users will drive the number of ads they can serve. It'll also drive how people will pay to contact each other. And at 400,000 users, a $40 or $50 million valuation has them at almost $100 per user. And that's a pretty big valuation when you start talking about how much you would want to earn per user to really support that kind of valuation. So it seems high given their current volume. But if their volume begins to pick up, it could go higher.
Excellent.
I think that's a valuation that was done not that recently. It was done in a slightly different market time, so maybe it made sense at that time. I think that they are going to have to just, at this point, forget about valuations. How do you get a lot of users? How do you embed this service in lots of other places? And how do you create places where you can drive traffic into it? And I think there are ways to do that, but it's about really that. And I think that maybe there's also, Adult Friend Finder, which sold for $600 million or whatever it was, which is a dating site. So I mean, the reality is very brief dates, but nonetheless dates. So I think the reality is that there are big exits in this category.
Hot or Not sold for
Hot or
$20
Not for
million.
20 and had $5 million in revenue and $2 million in profit. But I mean, the reality is that there's a lot of different samples. Those are fine. Two ends, 50 and a few hundred, but they're going to have to get something which drives a lot of consumption, and then good things will happen after that. So hopefully I have enough in the bank to go for another year or so, or a year or two, and get that consumption.
I think they raised $12.5 million, and they're stretching it out to 24 months. So I think Steven's being pretty smart about it. So maybe he'll hit those numbers. So, but I think excellent advice. Marissa, thank you for joining us for this segment, and you'll be with us for 3 others. And Ezra, thanks as always for your insight. So we've been talking about Woome, and you've been watching VaderBox. I'm Bambi Francisco. We'll see you next time on Vader News.